Welcome back to my channel. I've had quite a bit of time off. I needed it to get my dissertation written and out of the way, so the first draft is done and I can forget about it for now, which means I can get back to bringing you content that I love to research and to bring to you all, and that's all about fitness and medicine. So this week is all about weight loss and exercise. So, can exercise alone help you to lose weight? Quite simply, no. Exercise alone will not help you to lose weight. And I'll be bringing you today as to the reasons why. And I'll specifically be talking about two different population groups because actually the background behind the weight loss as well as the risks involved in trying to lose weight with these particular groups are very, very different. The two categories of populations I'll be looking at are those trying to lose weight for health reasons, so those people who are overweight or obese or feel that they're overweight and are using exercise as a way of losing weight, and those who are athletic, so they already have high levels of exercise in the routine and are trying to lose weight for performance benefits. So that might either be because they need to get into a certain weight category, so lightweight or featherweight, or because having lowered fat mass actually increases the advantage for certain sports. So for example, cycling, you get a slight benefit having less weight that is non-functional. We were all taught at school about the energy equilibrium. So when energy in equals energy out, we have weight stabilization. So we should neither gain nor lose any weight. So you would think that it would make sense that if we put energy out as greater than energy in, then we should lose weight. So if we increase our activity levels, then the pounds should just fall off. But some of the common mistakes made by people who start exercise in order to lose weight is that often they don't nearly consider their energy in component. So someone who's starting out exercise may believe that they are greatly increasing their energy expenditure, so will reward themselves with something that's highly calorific, like a treat, like a slice of cake or some biscuits or ice cream. And actually, those calories in that you're using to treat yourself are actually far greater than the energy you've just expended. So as a consequence, they'll actually end up having a greater energy intake. And so a lot of people will then become disheartened because they start putting on weight instead of losing weight when they start exercise and saying it's not helping. When actually it's the behaviours surrounding their energy intake that are actually affecting their ability to lose weight. Another reason why someone might be putting on weight when they initially start exercise is about twofold. So if you're initially a sedentary person and you don't do a lot of walking, you'll spend most of the time not really on your feet, you spend a lot of time sitting down, you don't put a lot of impact on your joints. But when you start doing things like a Zumba class or running or HIIT training, anything that's high impact on your joints, you can get sort of minor inflammation and minor sort of swelling of those joints. So you get a fluid accumulation in those joints, and that can actually be quite a considerable amount. You also get increased capillarization in your muscles, increased blood flow. So you actually have a need to actually take on more fluids because you need to be able to maintain your blood pressure. So you actually put on a little bit of water weight essentially in that sense as well, which can be a little bit more long term, but it eventually does balance out after a matter of weeks. So people tend to be quite disheartened when they suddenly notice this increase of maybe about a kilo within the first few weeks of an exercise program. So that's not even energy intake related, it's purely relating to the starting of an exercise routine. So let's get onto the science about weight loss and exercise. So we've already established some of the common reasons why exercise alone won't help you to lose weight. So there's actually been studies done. This has actually been something that's been studied for at least 40 years. A lot of the earliest stuff I found was from the 80s that's freely available. A difference in results between the 80s and in the last 10 years is minimal. It's actually been a very consistent finding over the last 40 years that actually exercise alone, although it can increase your cardiovascular fitness, doesn't really help you to lose weight. However, if you combine the exercise routine with a diet, so not necessarily a severe diet, but it's more about food intake awareness. So being aware of what you're putting in your body. So for example, if you increase your energy expenditure by about 25% and reduce your food intake by 25%, you will get the same amount of weight loss as if you didn't do any additional level of exercise, but had a diet where you reduce your calories by 50%. Both know actually probably what you'd prefer. You probably wouldn't want to cut your diet in half in terms of what you're eating. That's not really feasible long term, and a lot of these studies are usually done over about 6 to 12 week period, in which that level of calorie reduction is just not sustainable. A lot of more modern studies tend to look at much less severe calorie restrictions alongside moderate to vigorous exercise routine, where you're doing shorter but higher intensity workloads, as well as those who are doing sort of moderate but longer intensity. And they're actually finding similar results. And these studies are over longer periods of time and typically have greater client satisfaction and have longer reproducible results. So they're able to keep the weight loss off for up to 2 years. Whereas a lot of the 6-week programs typically find after a year, they're not able to sustain that level of weight loss. They're not able to keep a weight stabilization. Another benefit of introducing an exercise program into your weight loss routine is actually you can really improve that cardiovascular fitness. And as I've mentioned in one of my earlier videos, it's one of the key components for helping fight off cardiovascular disease. So it's well known that obesity can increase your risk for cardiovascular disease and diabetes. However, someone who is what we call fit and fat can actually have a better cardiovascular fitness than someone who is my size and is a smoker. And this is because exercise is very protective in the cardiovascular system. A lot of the after effects of exercise in terms of repair can really help protect the vessels and the muscles and the heart from the negative effects of being obese or sedentary or a smoker. So exercise, even in a moderate amount, can be better than actually doing nothing, particularly if you're dieting. Another problem with having a diet without an exercise component is actually you're not primarily losing fat. You actually lose a large percentage of lean muscle mass. Because muscle is much more energy hungry than fat, your body will break that down first if you are in an energy deficit. And that's what contributes to these cardiovascular risk factors. This decrease in functional muscle mass can actually reduce your exercise tolerance. So if you're not doing any exercise and you're losing all this muscle mass due to your dieting because you need the energy broken down from those muscles, then you're actually going to become less fit, you're going to become less able to do the stuff you used to be able to doing, and that's why a lot of diets fail, because you just feel awful. And also, if you're starting to lose muscle mass due to your diet, you're probably going too heavy on the calorie restriction. So there are many negative effects for weight loss without an exercise routine. And as they've found, diet alone versus diet and exercise actually produces very little difference in weight loss. So studies have found that an exercise program with a diet intervention can actually result in less uncontrolled eating and more restrained eating. So you're not going to suddenly think, oh, now I've done this exercise, I can treat myself, versus an exercise program on its own. But we've also found that diet on its own actually has its own problems and needs an exercise program to supplement it. So exercise alone and diet alone are not really good enough to have to lose weight and also keep your fitness. But sort of diet intervention and an exercise program is the best combination for weight loss in a population trying to lose weight for health reasons. Now we move on to talk about athletes trying to lose weight for performance benefits. There are many reasons for this. So it could be as simple as trying to get into a certain weight category. They want to go into a slightly lower weight category where they are the heaviest in that one and have the weight advantage in that category. There's also those where actually having a reduction in fat mass can be a performance advantage in terms of where weight plays a difference. So for example, with cycling, if you're having to carry that fat mass with you, it can actually be a disadvantage, particularly if you're going up hills. So those are fairly legitimate reasons for wanting to lose weight in sport. Which kind of brings us on to the not so legitimate ones. There is a huge and very bad area of sport of athlete appearance. I was only reading the article, but the Ellesmere Swimming College club the other day, how a lot of the athletes were derided for their weight if they're putting weight. As they're teenagers, they're growing people, they're going to be putting on weight, and they're often very much scrutinised for being 500 grams overweight. And the problem with this is that this can lead to quite a negative psychological impact on their own mental health. So these athletes would typically be a healthy weight for a normal person. But because these athletes have had pressure put on them to lose weight, this can actually lead to a massive cycle of food and fat aversion. So anything, so for example, that would be considered to be fat, when actually it's actually a normal appearance and healthy appearance for a person. And this can potentially lead to eating disorders, or particularly bulimia. Bulimia is one of the more common eating disorders in sport. So they're trying to eat the calories they need to do the sport, and then they will purge in order to have the weight loss. But the problem is these don't really help with weight loss. They just instigate a really negative psychological cycle. There are other impacts in which are not eating disorders, but ways of losing weight. So there's something called weight cycling. There are some sports which are seasonal. So they may try and lose weight for the season so they can compete in certain categories. And then in the off season, when they do the bulk of their more sort of heavy training, they will eat up the calories, they'll put on weight. This has been shown to be one of the most unhealthy diet regimes in athletes, this weight cycling. And not only is it unhealthy, where it can lead to an increase in cardiovascular disease, it can actually slow your ability to lose weight, as it'll actually start reducing your metabolic rate. If your body's not getting the calories it needs, then you'll get signals going to your thyroid to try and reduce your metabolic rate, so you can preserve as much energy as possible. So not only can eating disorders such as anorexia nervosa and binge purging and these weight cycling lead to increased cardiovascular risk, it can actually increase your risk of osteoporosis as well, because everything starts to break down in order to produce energy, and actually bones and muscles are a luxury. Your body will try and preserve fat first. So what if an athlete's just trying to lose weight this once? They've been told they need to lose weight, or they believe they need to lose weight, but once they've got there, they know they can hold it off. So they're not going to be weight cycling, they want to lose weight. Now, there's a lot of research into rapid weight loss in sport. So rapid weight loss in this context refers to a weight loss of approximately 5% of your original body mass over a very short period of time. Now, if this occurs in less than a week, this can actually increase your risk of developing an acute kidney injury quite substantially. These sorts of health risks alone will actually decrease your performance rather than try and increase your performance as you may hope you'd get through the weight loss. So rapid weight loss that's not quite to the extent where you develop an AKI can still affect your performance, even if it doesn't affect your physical strength or aerobic capacity. So it's more suggestive of a neurological deficit that rapid weight loss causes. So it can affect either point of the brain or the neuromuscular junction. There doesn't really seem to be a consensus on the how. But the other negative effects of rapid weight loss can also be increased risk of injury due to fatigue, increased emotional distress, and an increased risk in dehydration, because if you're trying to lose weight, you're probably not going to be taking enough water on. With all this doom and gloom, it would sound like that I'm not supportive of weight loss in athletes for performance benefits. That is not the case whatsoever. But what I am saying is that rapid weight loss or weight cycling is not the healthy way to go. It doesn't produce any performance benefits, and it can impact your health in both the short and the long term. So far, the literature supports more of a progressive weight loss program. So if you have a particular event you're trying to lose weight for, you need to start planning a lot earlier. You either need to do this in support with a dietitian and with your coach, or a health professional if you have a history of eating disorders in the past. There is a very fine line between functional behaviour and an eating disorder, and it's really important to keep the pressure low on athletes, as well as to maintain a healthy interaction with food and exercise. In both the population groups I've spoken about, so athletes losing weight for performance gains and in those trying to lose weight for health benefits, a progressive program is the way to go. The only exception is that athletes, particularly elite athletes, will already have their exercise levels optimized, so we can't really increase those. But in both groups, without diet modification, your ability to lose weight sustainably is very, very difficult. Both the science and also I support the following. So the best way to start with the diet modification is to try and do a 10% calorie reduction. So have a look at your diet. Is there anything in there you could start off with and go, right, chuck that out? That's something I don't need, it's just something I snack on because I'm bored. So for example, I have these biscuits, I literally just sit there and will munch all day. So could I potentially maybe not do that? And that was an automatically, okay, that's 10% of my calories out. Now, if you're someone who already has a healthy and optimum diet, which I'll get onto in a sec, then actually the best way forward is to go with a portion size reduction. So to get that 10% calorie reduction, go for a 10% smaller portion. I recommended this to my mum about 6 or 7 months ago, and if that get to that point, you're holding a stable weight but you're wanting to lose a bit more weight, then you can take off another 10%. And you do that until you start seeing a sustainable long-term weight loss, and it should be slow. We don't want to see rapid weight loss. We want to see a progressive and sustainable weight loss. So I'm going to go back over this healthy food term I used before. There's certainly a lot more talk now about actually saying healthy foods is not the healthy way to go in terms of calling them those. When a lot of people think about healthy foods, they think lettuce, veg, fruit. Yes, they are healthy foods, but with everything in moderation, if you have it to excess, then it's not a healthy diet. So for example, if I had one burger a month, although it's considered to be an unhealthy food, I'm not consuming it in an unhealthy manner in terms of diet. So it's everything in moderation. You definitely need to talk with your dietitian, with your sports team, and your coach about what is best for you. There's definitely a certain amount of variation to judge for this. Everyone is different. It is a difficult balance for athletes to find a way of still getting the calories they need to exercise and reduce them enough to lose the weight. So it is advised, if your sport recommends a calorific intake of 3 to 5,000 calories, that you do a maximum reduction of 500 calories, which obviously for the 5,000, that is that 10% reduction. I would also not support anything more than a 10% reduction to start with. And because you can always do 10% off, 10% off, 10% off. If you start with too big a jump right at the start, you can potentially get unwell, your ability to sustain a diet becomes impaired, and it can affect your performance. And the last thing you want is to adopt a regime that you're just going to drop and make you miserable, because actually then you increase your risk of mental health difficulties as well as eating disorders. As I said, there is a fine line between functional behaviour and an eating disorder. So with both of the population groups I've mentioned, I strongly support a diet modification alongside the exercise in order to help lose weight. But please, please, please make sure that it's a very long-term goal. No shorter than 6 months in order to get to any sort of first level goal, because it needs to be sustainable, it needs to be healthy. You also need to be able to adjust your behaviour into sustainable habits. And that just doesn't happen over a very short space of time. The final thing I'm going to mention is that although I've thoroughly researched this topic, I am not a registered dietitian. I am currently not yet a doctor, I'm still a medical student, so I cannot give specific advice for everyone. I would recommend, if you are looking to lose weight and you are concerned about your health for health, or you're looking to do it in terms of being an elite athlete, you either talk to a registered health professional, a dietitian, or your coach for support. Don't try and do this alone. You do need support around you if you're trying to make quite large changes to your lifestyle and behaviours. So that brings me to the end of today's video on weight loss and exercise. I hope you feel more informed about this topic. It's one I have really enjoyed because it's something I've had a lot of discussions with my mum about, and it can be quite counterintuitive to a lot of sport enthusiasts. My next video will be out sometime early to mid-March, and it's about my trial with CBD oil. So I'm halfway through that trial right now. I'll be starting my second bottle today, and I'm looking forward to bringing you the results, not only the results but also the science behind cannabis oil, and does it really have an effect. So if you want to see how that's doing, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at lexi_fitmed. And if you like these videos, remember to like, subscribe and ding that bell, and share this if you know other people who are interested in these sort of topics. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time on FitMed.